Uncharted, cinematic action adventure, Naughty Dog style. Agenda, action adventure game design, Uncharted history, why Uncharted matters, set piece lifecycle, getting started, basic workflow, climbing and combat. Action adventure games. An action adventure game blends combat, exploration, and puzzle solving into one continuous experience rather than keeping those systems fully separate. If a game's story and gameplay feel disconnected, moving between cutscenes and player control can break the sense of immersion. Almost every major action adventure series balances scripted storytelling against giving the player room to explore and act. In team building, a story driven game benefits from gameplay that reinforces the narrative instead of pausing it. Cutting constantly between a movie and a game rarely feels like one unified experience. Scripted set piece and sandbox design. Sandbox level design gives players an open space and largely lets them decide how and when to engage with it. Uncharted instead builds tightly scripted set pieces, choreographing collapsing buildings, chases, and combat to unfold in a specific cinematic sequence. Sandbox, open world games, player driven systems, emergent pacing, scripted set piece, Uncharted, collapsing train, truck chase, directed cinematic pacing. Problems with purely sandbox driven design. Single point of tension. A fully open sandbox makes it hard to guarantee a specific dramatic beat happens at the right moment. Emergent player behavior can accidentally undercut a carefully written story moment. Hard to synchronize camera work and pacing with player actions that could happen in any order. Open design makes large, physics driven spectacle sequences difficult to choreograph reliably. Every player's differing pace complicates keeping a cinematic story rhythm consistent. Misses out on the tightly directed, movie like momentum that made Uncharted's set pieces so memorable. The Uncharted game design levels are built as a sequence of scripted encounters, blending platforming, cover based combat, and light puzzle solving. Motion capture and in engine cinematics are woven directly into gameplay, minimizing hard cuts between cutscenes and game. Environmental destruction and dynamic camera work are scripted to trigger in sync with the player's progress through a set piece. Other games in a similar cinematic vein, Tomb Raider, The Last of Us, God of War, Uncharted advantages, blend cinematic storytelling and gameplay so smoothly that the two rarely feel separate. Traversal and combat share the same core mechanics, keeping moment to moment play consistent. Set piece sequences deliver a sense of scale and spectacle rare in more sandbox driven games. Strong character writing and performance capture gives the cast real emotional weight. Each entry pushed the PlayStation hardware, becoming a showcase for the console's visual capability. A tightly paced campaign structure respects players' time compared to open-ended alternatives. Everything is said to a script almost. One huge benefit of this design is that in Uncharted, almost every dramatic beat is deliberately scripted rather than left to chance. Triggers tied to the player's position or actions kick off specific camera moves, enemy spawns, and environmental collapses. This lets designers choreograph a sequence like a truck chase with the same precision as a film's action scene. Because so much is scripted, pacing and tension can be turned exactly the way the story needs beat by beat. The trade off is deliberate, less emergent freedom in exchange for cinematic moments that consistently land. Climbing and cover. Climbing reads the environment for handholds and ledges the player can traverse. Cover lets the player duck behind geometry during a firefight. A scripted set piece trigger. A trigger volume kicks off a choreographed sequence once the player reaches it. A climbing state example. Climbing is tracked as a simple state machine layered on top of normal movement. History developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony, with Uncharted Drake's Fortune released in 2007 on the PlayStation 3. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves 2009 is widely credited with popularizing the series' signature cinematic set-piece style. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception 2011 and Uncharted 4 A Thief's End in 2016 continued the story of protagonist Nathan Drake. The Lost Legacy 2017 shifted focus to supporting characters Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross in a standalone adventure. A film adaptation released in 2022, and the Legacy of Thieves collection later brought the series to PC. Why Uncharted matters? Influential. Its blend of cinematics and gameplay shaped a generation of action adventure design. Technical showcase. Each entry pushed the PlayStation hardware toward new visual benchmarks. Character driven, strong writing and performance capture set a high bar for game storytelling. Accessible, approachable combat and traversal systems welcome the players newer to action games. Consistent quality, a well regarded run of entries across nearly a decade. A flagship PlayStation franchise that helped define Naughty Dog's reputation for cinematic games. Set piece choreography. A set piece sequence synchronizes camera, physics, audio, and player input into one continuous moment. Designers block out a sequence beats first, then tune exactly when triggers fire relative to player position. Physics driven. Destruction is often carefully constrained, so it looks chaotic while staying safely predictable to design round. Never assume a set piece just happens. Each one is iterated on extensively to feel spontaneous while staying reliable. Uncharted set piece lifecycle. Player advances, explore, volume activates trigger, camera and event, cinematic shift, gameplay returns, resolve. The player explores until a trigger fires, the game shifts into a scripted cinematic sequence, and control returns once the moment resolves. Getting started with Uncharted. This leads us to the three steps that get your first adventure going. Pick a collection. Start with Nathan Drake Collection or Legacy of Thieves Collection. Play the campaign. Follow the story from beginning to the end for the full arc. Explore for collectibles. Look for treasures and journal entries tucked through each level. Basic workflow: climbing, fighting, and exploring. Some call climb, fight, and explore Uncharted's everyday loop. Traversal sections let players take in environments between combat encounters. Cover-based gunfights mix gunplay with the same acrobatic movement used for climbing. Optional treasures and journal entries reward players who explore off the critical path. Puzzles occasionally pause the pace, calling back to the series' Indiana Jones style inspirations. Supports many playstyles, stealth approaches, aggressive combat, or a mix of both. Work the same across the series' remastered collection on PlayStation and PC. Any questions? Thank you.